Congestion charges. The only thing that can force stingy Malaysians to take public transport. After all, we are a nation of cheapskates who would rather risk getting a 300 ringgit parking ticket than pay 2 ringgit for indoor parking. But first, what are congestion charges? Congestion charges or road pricing is a fee that drivers pay for driving in the city centre at a certain time during work days. The idea is to ease traffic, and this is usually done through chips that are integrated into road tax stickers. Sounds like a terrible idea, doesn't it? Now, before we all get outraged though, it should be noted that this is not some newfangled system thought up to fleece us. They've done it in London, but the question is it effective? Well, according to the BBC, before the charges were implemented in 2003, a regular commute would be delayed by 3.4 minutes per kilometre within London Ring Road. But in 2009, the same commute saw a 3.6-minute delay per kilometre due to roadworks, plus an increase in vehicles on the road. So, congestion charges seem to fail immediately at their first job, namely from stopping people from driving to town in the first place. In addition, you could potentially see fewer opportunities in town because people would want to avoid extra charges. Listen to what Smithfield Market Tenants Association had to say 10 years after London imposed the rules.
Suppressed job creation, expansion, yes it has, and business, but it's here. We can't ever see it going away.
However, the former Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, or Mr. Brexit, thought otherwise.
Central London congestion charging zone has, I think, been a success in delivering some reductions in congestion in central London. That's been of benefit to Londoners, and that was why I was always determined to keep it.
The same guy who came to KL last year and took a ride on LRT. Also the same guy who spearheaded leaving the EU that made the pound crash and yet didn't want to take responsibility for his actions by becoming Prime Minister. Yes, that guy. Even with proof that it doesn't always work, DBKL said it was planning to impose the charges for private vehicles next year when the first phase of the MRT1 is completed. The problem is, the first phase of the Sungai Buloh-Kajang line is a route from Sungai Buloh to Semantan, and out of the 12 stations in the first phase, only 2 are located in the city centre. Sure, we also have 2 existing LRT lines.
In the past, Ampang Line and Buloh-Putrajaya Line only covered the fringes of the city. Now with Klang Valley Mass Rapid Transit, it links right into the heart of the KL city centre.
No, it doesn't, my friend. It does not. I mean, sure, the new line runs through Pasar Seni, Merdeka Station, Bukit Bintang and Pasar Rakyat, but cutting through the most congested roads in KL, there isn't even a station on Jalan Tun Razak where IJN, GH, the National Library and Istana Budaya are. It feels like we are stuck in a lousy game of SimCity. You know, when you forget to build enough subway stations. Of course, you may argue that this is just first phase. Once the entire plan is complete, we will have more stations in more strategic areas. The thing is, why is DBKL talking about imposing congestion charges before it's all done? Maybe someone needs more funds to play Pokemon Go and be the very best.
I wanna be the very best.
Although to be honest, whether the charges come now or later, even when we eventually get more stations, it doesn't overcome one major problem: our own lazy bums. It's called the first mile, where most drivers refuse to drive or cycle to the nearest KTM or LRT stations from their houses to get to their destinations. I mean, we are all for people taking public transport, which leads to less people on the road, as long as it's someone else, not us. And even for those of you who are conscious of your carbon footprint, don't forget you still need to drive or Uber to the nearest station, unless it conveniently happens to be at your doorstep. And most of the time, it isn't. Because while we all love convenience, we love NIMBY more. You know NIMBY, not in my backyard. Stats show the modal share of public transport in Malaysia remains at a poor 20% compared to a 60% in Singapore and around 55% in London. As compared with 2 other countries that implemented the congestion charges, KL has a much lower density with 1.7 million inhabitants within 243 square kilometres. Well, in its own misguided way, DBKL has the right idea. It is absolutely necessary to think of a way to curb traffic problems in KL before it turns into a nightmare like Jakarta. But there are tons of other things that we need to fix before we get that going, such as building public spaces, pedestrian walkways with shelters. We ought to first make sure our public transport system and facilities are top-notch before imposing traffic charges and road pricing. So if the authorities want us to turn over a new leaf and help reduce congestion, they'll need to give us a good excuse not to. And that means this can never happen again. Just saying.